Our viewers, well, it's time for another Team VVV podcast. And this week I'm catching up with Thomas Harrison-Lord, the editor-in-chief of Traxion. Thomas, welcome to the podcast today.
Oh, thank you very much, Alan. It's a pleasure to be on Team VVV, having read and watched your channel for, well, at least a decade, I think, on and off.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you've been back around, so thanks for having me.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, it's great for me. It's great to get different voices on the channel. You know, I've done so much of this. I have so many opinions. I see so many racing games before other people over the years that it's great to share that passion and knowledge and also talk to you guys who are, you know, again, picking up the baton, as it were, in terms of finding out about all the new racing games. And for me, it's just as much fun learning from you about the new racing games and your opinions and perhaps challenging those as well. So love all of that. Talking racing games, that's good today. Of course, we had the big show last week, and I want to get all the gossip from you on the Sim Racing Expo. You were there. Tell me about some of the highlights, what you've been up to at the show. Give me your rundown.
I'm still recovering from it, which is a good sign, actually, because over the years it's grown and had its challenges, and I've seen it. I think I first went in 2022 or 3. And this year's was by far and away the biggest and best show. And for the first time ever, I felt like it was also not just sim racing equipment, which is important to try the new steering wheels and pedals and shifters, but it was really, there were several new video games there that are not released that people could try. And one or two announcements at the show, and even an entire game was announced there, Assetto Corsa Rally. So it was almost like what I'd always wanted to see in the industry, which was and almost like mini Gamescom, but for our little niche, our little subgenre. And it really was that. And also I saw that not only was every exhibitor space completely sold out, oversubscribed, but also even on the Saturday, it was across 3 days, all the tickets were sold out. So people would turn up and it was sold out. So fantastic for the industry. And there were many, many highlights, but I think if we just quickly mention one, it would be Assetto Corsa Rally, because I drove that and I thought, actually, feels good.
Yeah.
Feels good.
Assetto Corsa Rally. So for me, big rally fan, as you know, I love my rally games.
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to it. I heard the announcement, as I mentioned in my video the other day. I was excited to hear about the announcement. I am a little bit burned out, as I said, with early access being sort of used all the time, and the fact that it is just a demo at this stage. And you know, I know that some people took it as quite negative. I suppose I wanted to see more from the stages. You know, what was it? Dirt Rally came out years ago, and that was just 2 locations for a long time, became 4 locations. I want to see this turn into something big, something special. But I haven't played it yet, so I have no idea on the handling. So you've been on it. Did you find it? Did you find it intuitive to get into? How did your feelings grow as you started driving the car? And just a difference between the tarmac and the dirt handling. Just watching some of the demos I've seen, the gravel seemed very fluid. The car seemed to be working well on its suspension, sliding nicely. But it all depends on the setup and the wheel, that kind of stuff. So, give me your impressions on Assetto Corsa Rally, just playing that demo.
Yes, so very, very small vertical slice. You'll be able to play it soon as well, because, surprise, it's going to be in early access from the 13th of November, PC only for now. We will be coming to consoles later. There's several points there, Alan. I suppose I'm also burnt out on early access. Like, I think it would be refreshing for a game in this day and age to just release on day one. But anyway, it's early access. It's hard to judge from an event because you're, as you mentioned there, playing on someone else's setup, someone else's PC. There might be mega PCs that you actually can't afford at home. But what was good about this event was there was a launch evening for the game on the night before the event happened on the Fanatec stand. Got to try it there, and then actually for the public, once the show opened, it was available on 6 or 7 different stands on different wheels. So I tried it also on a Simicube wheel, and it was on some others, and it felt good on all of them.
Right,
in my opinion. You can't give a definitive verdict. Can't wait to try it, at home for an extended period. I think I probably played about an hour in total.
Yeah,
and the handling. I drove the first few minutes was a Lancia Delta on gravel. And I tried to drive it like EA Sports WRC or Dirt Rally, similar physics. It didn't really work because it's a Group A rally car without active differentials or any of this stuff. You had to actually make sure you're driving in a way that shifted the weight in a correct way in order to get it to turn in. Otherwise, it was quite recalcitrant to do so. That's actually quite, I think that's what it should be.
Yeah.
And also when the co-driver says don't cut, you really, really don't cut.
Yeah.
It's not forgiving. And then I tried like a modern Rally 2 car on asphalt. And that felt, first time you pull the handbrake to do a hairpin, I was getting it completely wrong. But by the end of the first stage, I got into this nice timing and flow of just drifting it around a nice tight hairpin. And then on the high-speed stuff, it felt very precise. So very, very positive for me. I don't want to say it's perfect because it's a tiny, tiny bit, isn't it? And I suppose the other thing would be the stages that you mentioned there. They are laser scanned. Now, that's amazing detail. I've never really seen that if the whole game will have laser scanned stages, where in theory it's accurate for every lump, bump, corner radius, things like this. The flip side to that might be that there are fewer stages than people expect. We'll have to see. I think they're going for quality over quantity there.
Yeah, I mean, what it is when I sound critical sometimes when I make my videos because I'm looking at a level of detail that other people aren't necessarily. When I say like the stages, I say, well, they're not the most exciting rally stages. What I mean by that is, yeah, I've been to Wales. I've done a bit of the rally.
Yeah.
It's great fun. I've been to CWRC in Wales. It's muddy. It's cold. It's depending on where you stand, you could be in a tunnel of trees and literally see very little. It's not the most exciting. It's nice when you have a big view over a nice Welsh valley and you can see the sunlight. And I do like the stages that go on varied adventures. Now, it was highlighted about KT Racing, and what they used to do was join together exciting bits of rallies to make really exciting stages.
Yeah.
But ultimately, those exciting bits exist, and I look forward to there are rallies that just, you start in one location. You might start in a desert and end in a forest, but it takes you from one, shall we say, biome to another. And I like that in rallies when you feel like you've been on a journey. But for me, it's the fluidity of feeling one with the car. And that's one thing that I mentioned in real life when you can do a rally and it's very intense, very, very intense. There's nothing as intense as that. When a rally driver takes you out in the car, you have no feeling for the car. You're sliding around corners. It feels more like Sega Rally than a simulator. Just it feels impossible, and it's an amazing feeling of sort of floating over gravel. So it's nice to see. There's a lot of work going into that suspension and getting it just right. I look forward to hands-on when the demo comes out, but it's exciting to have a game announcement at the show. I was speaking to Gamer Muscle recently and saying, we need more actual games announced at the Sim Racing Expo. Make it an event for racing gamers, not just for new wheels, but new racing games. So that is a key highlight. I just hope now it's not in early access for too long. I don't want to see it in early access for 3 or 4 years. I want to see something concrete coming to that pretty quickly. I mean, from a marketing perspective, they found a sweet opportunity to just throw something out there, get 100% of eyeballs on it because there's no other rally games on the market. And why not? I hope they use that time over the next few months to get something out of it. But I want it to do well. I want to see a successful rally game. So we'll see if they can bring the parts together. Assetto Corsa need a bit of a win as well. Competizione didn't necessarily hit the mark in all the ways it should have. Evo, the jury's still out on that. Again, I don't think it's quite been what everybody wanted it to be, but it's still evolving, but we'll see. So perhaps Rally is going to, ironically made by another developer, is going to bring those parts from Kunos and Supernova together. So that's great at the show. You mentioned as well lots of wheels and stuff like that. Yep. It's very competitive at the show now. Are we at a point where there's a concern of market saturation? Because
I think so.
It is a concern now, isn't it, given the amount of players and the amount of wheels and rims that are coming onto the market?
Well, very much so. Just quickly before I answer that, I just want to really just quickly on Assetto Corsa Evo. Yes, you're totally right. It's such a key point where Evo has had a bit of a tumultuous launch. It's running behind schedule through early access. I think that might be in early access for a while. And so Rally has now come out and it is a win so far. And and I was speaking to Irvin Zonka, who's a milestone veteran. He left that company to in 2021 to help form this team, and he's a real rally nerd. And there's been some confusion online because, why are they releasing this game when they haven't finished Evo yet? But it is a different team, so I just want to clarify that. But they also at the show they showed extra stuff for Evo for the first time, so that was a big thing. So I just wanted to mention
That's
that.
interesting. You mean Irving Zonka. So Irving Zonka, for those that don't know,
I'm sure you'll know him.
Director on WRC 1, 2, and 3 at Milestone years ago. He was also the game director behind Sebastian Loeb Rally, which was a fantastic rally game. It had rubbish audio, but it was a fantastic rally game. I loved it, and it was a shame that we never got to see that game really reach its potential. I'd love to have seen that built on. So Irvin is someone who knows his rally games and has developed it well in the past. That's good to know. Good news there.
Yeah, I had a chat with him in the evening about Sebastian Loeb Rally Evo, and there were plans to follow up with that, and audio was a key component. But anyway, Milestone knocked it on the head. Sad. But he was saying how, whether or not you believe, it could be marketing speak, that Assetto Corsa Rally is what he wanted for that series, obviously on a different brand with different technology, and it's going to use Assetto Corsa Competizione's physics as a base, which I thought was very interesting, even though that's not a rally game. So he's the right person for it. We'll see if he pulls it off. Anyway, a while ago, you asked me about steering wheels and biking saturation.
Let's get back to the wheels. Yes.
Yeah. No, you're right. I think only the strongest will survive.
Yeah.
You've had this massive growth of sim racing, and also not just high-end stuff, but now the last year, everyone's also racing to be on console, trying to get to be on there. And Sony is a gatekeeper of what hits their requirements. I think whoever gets through that and succeeds on that particular platform is in a better place to survive. There are, the market's growing, but there are still only so many wheel manufacturers that will survive, because if you get so much down one in particular ecosystem, you spent a lot of money on that, you don't really want to go somewhere else. I know a lot of the high-end wheels will work on whatever wheelbase you want, but there's still a factor involved. And at the Expo, there were some really cool stuff. Like a company from York called BDH had an active shifter, very expensive, where if you don't put the clutch in, it will not go into gear. And if you do it slightly wrong, it will grind. And it has engine vibrations. And you can also just twizzle the dial and it will change the layout of the H pattern depending on the car you're driving, if you want a dog box or a seventh gear or whatever. That's really cool, but it's also not a mass market product.
No.
So some of those innovations will trickle down. But we've got to
say on that, clutch is something that I feel clutch is that you just have dead clutches on pedals usually, and I feel a clutch needs a feeling to it. And if they could dial in a biting point or something that gave you some sort of element of that clutch at peak biting point, I think it would work well. It would just add to the feeling of a clutch, because you feel connected to the car. Clutch control is really important on hairpin corners, and depending on the rally car you're driving, as to if it's well maintained, it's quite peak, there's a lot of room there. But if you're driving an older rally car, they can feel the best way to explain it is sort of bouncy. It's really difficult feeling that biting point. So if they can ever release a clutch that somehow takes in that sort of feeling of technology, that would really add to the clutch experience, rather than just because there's no biting point. It's just press the pedal, change, and it's just a different feeling, especially on the hairpins. But I like the idea behind innovation. But like you say, how many people are going to buy that? What's the minimum order quantity? How many sims support it? This kind of stuff right now. Ultimately, you need a big console game that can sell big numbers to be able to sell 10,000 units of your wheel. Bearing in mind all the competition on the market, that means that's a console game that sold 100,000, 1 million units, which means 100,000 of those at most might be a wheel, which means 10,000 of those you might most be your customer. Just shows how when you have a few more competitors on the market, it can become awfully competitive between them all. So it's really interesting.
So. Yeah, and also we've got like if you follow the road car industry as well, especially in the last couple of years. We've had this influx of Chinese manufacturers, and actually in the UK, we're getting bombarded by another brand each week. I follow industry quite closely, and it's even as a car nerd, lifelong car nerd, it's actually quite difficult to keep up with the car brands. The same is happening in sim racing tech, right? There's at the show, there's the Sim Magic Conspit. Moser is probably the preeminent force with good backing behind it. That's really eating the American and European brands lunch. Your Logitechs, your Thrustmasters, your Fanatics, Simbicubes. They're coming at them from the high end and the low end and on the consoles. And that's all. So not only do we have this race for trying to have more brands and more innovation, the existing manufacturers are also being squeezed by people undercutting them, and potentially not necessarily selling things at a profit or having some sort of backing behind them.
Yeah.
And they're also rapidly innovating. I mean, really quick. There was one particular wheel by one brand that was sort of announced, and then it took like 2 or 3 years to get to market. In the meantime, another brand from China had sort of got something that was very similar, announced, released, produced.
Yeah.
Within a year.
Yeah.
So that's what they're up against.
It does make you, I mean, I do see different products and brands, and I play early wheels, and I think, oh, this is great. And then, a year later or 2 years later, it's still not fully on the market. And by then you've got competitors that where a year or two ago, it might have been, well, this is actually really good and it's going to do well. And you've got an angle. And then a year later, competitors come up and they've released a very similar product at perhaps a cheaper price. And now it doesn't look like the good deal it was, and you put all that investment in. So I think the wheel market, a lot of decisions were made on the wheels during the COVID era, and when sim racing and racing gaming was huge at home. It has created a lot of new racing gamers, but we are behind on the software right now. We need more state-of-the-art racing games that take things further, and there isn't much of that going on right now in terms of that aspect of racing. And I think that's where we need something. But it's going to be interesting to see. So let's get back to some gaming. We've talked about Assetto Corsa. The other one, I guess, big one at the show was Rennsport. Let's talk a bit about Rennsport. How's that coming along?
Where to begin? It's a contentious one.
Yeah.
Because I actually really would like it to succeed, and I want more sim racing or simulation style games on the market. And I first played it at an event in 2022, and it hasn't moved on as much as I would expect for 3-4 years later, which is sad. So obviously it's a new company, Unreal Engine sim racing game, and it releases on the 13th of November. Now, what's happened in the past year is a pivot to, it was meant to be, focus on PC, the hardcore, try and combat something like an iRacing or Assetto Corsa. I think they're still trying to do that. I don't want to take that away from them, but it's obviously coming out on PlayStation and Xbox at the same time when it leaves early access on PC, and it will have cross-platform multiplayer, which is their big sort of USP.
Yeah.
And I played for the first time at the Expo the AI, or the single player, which hasn't been shown once up until this point. Now, I know it's been focused on ranked multiplayer and the series esports, but esports is kind of, I think they backed esports again in COVID, just coming out of that, and that whole thing has sort of fallen apart, really. And so now they're going to implement some single player championships and hopefully build from there after launch. And it was not finished, clearly, but I hope they've got like 3 weeks to try and get better AI in there and build in a sense of progression.
I did watch some of your coverage, and it did look a little bit bumper cars on some of those circuits. They're a little bit blind at the moment, whether they're ahead of you or behind you, and you get taken out of the race very easily at times. So, it does look like there is work to do on that. And as you say, it's been around a while. It's competitive genre. It needs to, you can't release a game that's not ready. If they release it and it's not ready, it's dead. It's just the fans are going to move to other games, and it will get a bad rep. And that happens. So really important that developers polish what they can and put out what they can, or consider delaying it. Otherwise, it's just going to be another dud on the market. Besides that, you've got Project Motor Racing. Now, Project Motor Racing was one of the highlights at Gamescom. How was it? how's it being demoed and received at Sim Racing Expo?
Yeah, these two titles are intrinsically linked in some ways because they're both trying to do similar things in many ways. And I thought it was really important for Rennsport. I think they knew it. I don't want to speak for them, that they had to get it out before Project Motor Racing. Project Motor Racing has, I think, the backing of giant software. You know, Farming Sim sells millions every year, so they're affluent, let's say. And so you can tell, I think, from some of the trailers and some of the marketing gone into Project Motor Racing, I think they're absolutely nailing the marketing of it. In terms of how it was presented, they had a huge stage. They had Ben Collins, the former Stig, on stage. Then they went on the live stage of the Expo itself with him and Misha Sharudin having a race. First time it was sort of used in a broadcast sense. They've got, I think, as a motorsport nerd, one of the best car lineups I've seen in a generation. Not in terms of quantity, but in terms of obscure race cars you've kind of forgotten about. Love that. But again, it's not finished. And sometimes my opinion is I drive a certain car and a combination, and when it's raining, and I'm like, oh, this looks fantastic. And then I'll drive something else, and I'll be like, this doesn't feel so fantastic. So I would, again, they've got like about a month to be more consistent with their AI and with their vehicle handling and how it's going. On paper, they're saying the right things. We're going to have ranked online without subscription. We're going to have a single player career with progression. We're going to have all these cool cars. And I would say as well, sometimes it looks fantastic, and sometimes the graphics don't look fantastic, in particular in replays. So hit and miss at the minute.
This is a continuation of the world of Project Cars, shall we say?
Yes, it is. Yep.
And we saw what happened with Project Cars 2 in particular when it was released ahead of when it potentially could have been released, and it could have avoided a lot of the drama around the launch and been a more solid title, and that didn't do the brand any good. So they're coming back again. This will effectively make or break it. I think if there's it does. I have noticed online, I've said this quite often recently, a lot of games are getting very partisan fanboys around them now. They're very defensive of everything, and the mere question of something seems to you seem to get a pack onto you now, and that's why I was mentioning about the rally earlier. You know, sometimes people think, "Oh, you're criticising." Well, it's taken out of context in terms of where I'm coming from, and it's where Project Motor Racing is coming from now. Is it just needs to be solid, and if it's solid and it works well, and they put the components together, then they have a foundation to build on. But if it's a wobbly foundation, then it's not going to go anywhere. And also, do remember that Gran Turismo is coming back with a major update in December, new Traxion mode. That's a surprise to everybody. I think it shows that rather than release Gran Turismo 8, the decision has been made to perhaps continue with Gran Turismo 7 and build on that. And maybe that would be a good idea. There's so much potential in Gran Turismo 7 that still hasn't been unlocked, despite the incredible engine that they have there in terms of racing events, plus whatever else we've got coming out as well. So those were the major racing games at the show. Was there anything else there? I suppose I should ask about Le Mans Ultimate. You know, that's always being built on and developed. What's happening with Le Mans Ultimate? Was it shown there? Is it coming to console soon? What's happening there?
All sorts. So the representatives from the parent company, Motorsport Games, they were there, had a really good chat with them. And they were really happy with that. Yeah, the show's buzzing and great to see them. But it wasn't there officially. And I think they're just in a phase where they're not able to necessarily show what they're working on next. They are working on a single player career, which the CEO Stephen Hood is very confident in terms of how he thinks it will move the game on. In his words, not mine. We'll have to judge it when it comes out. In terms of offering something that's really detailed and that a single player person will enjoy, and that's the first part of that is slated for Q1 26. So they're just not in a place to show it further. Before then, they're working through European Le Mans DLC. So LMP3 cars and Silverstone have already been released, and that'll be Paul Ricard. And I've forgotten the other track, Barcelona, plus another 2 LMP3s. I think that's really important because it shows that they can also go out of just the World Endurance Championship. The ACO also runs Asian Le Mans, European Le Mans Cup, a Ligier series. Not saying that they will be in the game, but all of a sudden now there's scope to expand their content, which is important because in real life, the World Endurance Championship has the same tracks next year as this year.
Right.
So how do you get more circuits? Okay, we'll go to European Le Mans and Asian Le Mans and things like this. So that's key. But the fundamental changes, I think the main thing will be a career mode. When we get that, consoles will happen. Yeah, definitely. He says it on the earnings calls that they're in I mean, this was a couple of months ago when we last talked, and it's publicly available at the earnings call for Motorsport Games, which is very handy for a journalist like me. That it's going to happen. They just haven't announced who's going to make the port. It won't be internal. They don't have the resource, and then we'll have to see if they can meet the quality standards set by the parent company. But if you watch very, very closely on the last sort of video they did as a marketing communication when the last DLC came out, there was a very specific, weird 5-second shot of him holding a DualSense controller, and I was like, I know what that means. So it will happen. Yeah. Hopefully next year, maybe early 27. Don't know the timeline, and that'll be really important because I think it is one of, or if not the best driving sim out there, and especially if you factor in the immersion of the car sounds and the way the car models are detailed and how accurate the circuits are. The fundamentals are amazing.
Yes.
They need to build the career mode, and I'm not sure, how do you translate that to consoles? Not sure.
Well, put it this way, there's a massive market on console. Again,
huge.
This is all about solid. If they can make something that works solid on console, then they will beat the opposition we've already talked about. They've got the potential there. It's not about numbers of tracks or cars. It's getting what you've got right, solid, working, and then you can build on it. It doesn't matter if you have 100 tracks, but all the cars don't work, or there's problems with the courses, or there's frame rate stutters or whatever. It just ruins all of that work. So I've got to get on Le Mans. It's one of those that I played a couple of years ago at Le Mans. It was an early version at the time. It was poorly demoed in the setup.
Yeah.
They've learned a lot over the last couple of years. They've developed it. They've clearly got a very dedicated team. I like seeing the passion they clearly have for their project. So yes, I'm going to catch up with that. Again, there's competition there, but they're sort of lucky in a way. There's no real heavyweight competition. Sony and Gran Turismo is it now. Forza is out of the way, done. Yep. That's a big loss in general to the industry in terms of the major racing titles. So those were sort of the main games at the show. Any other show highlights that you saw this week that you thought, oh, I didn't expect that, or that was a highlight for me?
Yeah, there was something I can't remember the name of, which is really annoying. But Aris, who used to work at Kunos on Assetto Corsa, has invested in a GeForce simulation company. And it's not like a motion rig. I don't think you'll never have it at home. And this is a very early version, and the technology is early doors. But so basically, you sit in this big box, and it only works with VR, and you drive, and it's not a motion simulator. The simulator doesn't move. It moves your head. What? Which sounds very dangerous. And it can do up to 7 Gs, I think. But basically, yeah. So you put a helmet on and a VR headset, and then it's all got these wires and straps, and they're all connected to direct drive motors, and there's zero latency, literally zero, milliseconds. So it reacts 1-to-1, and when you're in a big braking zone, you move forward like this, and when you're going around a corner, it's putting pressure, and they're billing it as, a lot of Formula 1 drivers, for example, will do weight training on their neck.
Yes.
This can simulate that, but while you're driving at the same time. So it's going to be more of like a training tool, more of an experience center sort of thing. It's not going to be, I think it's called Gravitron. Oh, I'm so sorry. That's very unprofessional.
I'll see if
it'll be on the Traxion website and YouTube soon.
While you're talking about it, so the audience can see. I just think, remember to wear your hands device when you're using something like this. It does sound a little bit risky. I've been in some violent rigs over the years. They're always good fun, but you get out afterwards and you say, well, it was fun, but that's enough for me for now. So it does sound interesting. I like that about the Sim Racing Expo. I like when you find really odd things, that ridiculously difficult wheels to drive, or rigs that throw you about, in that way that's totally impractical to have in your own home. I like that kind of stuff.
Graviton. I've got it. I found it. Graviton. But also, I also would just like to mention that the Expo itself, I really hope you can go next year, Alan. They're going to expand. So there's going to be one in Charlotte earlier next year, by the same organisers, which will be on the same weekend as the Coca-Cola 600 NASCAR race. And I think, hopefully, I don't know if it's confirmed, but you might be able to, if you get a ticket to the race, you get a ticket to the Expo nearby, which could be really good. And then the main Dortmund show, which is what we just came back from, that's going to move to Frankfurt, which should be much easier for access and also a larger, newer venue.
Yeah. That's actually been one of the problems, is getting flights. You used to get to a local airport, now you got to go Dusseldorf, and then you got to get a train or a cab.
Which is what we did.
Cost a fortune all the way, and it's just a tricky location to get to, basically, especially for me just traveling on my own. It's nice when you're traveling with a group, but I go everywhere on my own. So it's nice to see it expanding, nice to see it growing. I just want the industry to work. I just feel right now, to save all these wheels, we need some really good racing games that utilize them, and not just sim racing. Like you say, rally, sports car, eventually we'll have the IndyCar coming in a couple of years, and but also arcade racing games, using wheels as well. I know a lot of racing gamers these days don't realize, but arcade games were the core place for steering wheel use 30 years ago. And an arcade game with wheels feels just as good as a sim game. And we need those games on the market to grow the market, to enable more support for the different wheels of all prices as well. So that's good to hear the shows improving, and that you've, like you say, have a good bit of fun with your guys there, and also you get to meet a lot of people in the industry. So if you're a fan of different YouTubers and racing, gaming, celebrities of all kinds, and even racing drivers will be there having a meal around the show and checking out the new stuff. So that's great. I guess the other thing really is just to catch up on a few new games. At Traxion, you're always covering all the new racing games. I just wanted to see how things were progressing on Wreckfest 2 this year. I'll be catching up on that soon. How's it looking?
Phenomenal. If I suppose if you're looking for a revolution, this is not the game so far. But imagine Wreckfest 1, but with just really very pretty visuals and even better sound and even more crunching crash physics and more detailed circuits and enhanced online gameplay. I think that's what most people wanted anyway. Then this is it. I think they've another early access game, but the way they've done early access is the right way. If we talk about Assetto Corsa Evo as perhaps the wrong way, which was that, they don't say anything until it's time to deliver. And when they do deliver an update for it, it's new content and some tweaks and the odd new feature. But fundamentally, from when it first launched in early access, when it was very barren in terms of content, the driving, the visuals were basically, I'm not going to say finished, but they were really good from the start. Yeah. So like the fundamentals were finished.
Right.
And I know not fully finished, they always tweak and get feedback, but really it was clearly been in development for many years. And then now they're gathering feedback and adding layering on the features and content. Yeah. And then when they drop an update, there's a funny trailer, which is quite irreverent. And then immediately from the day after, the 2 days after, there's lots of hot fixes. Yeah. And then quiet until they've actually got something to say. So there's no over-promising, under-delivering. They're just being extremely modest, and that's the right way of doing it.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. That's another game. So that and Le Mans are on my must-play catch-up list. I guess really just from yourself, is there any games that you've played this year that stand out, or any that you're sort of looking forward to we haven't covered today? We'll come back on more of this another time, but just any that sort of stand out.
No, I think that they are the main ones. I'm just really intrigued to see how iRacing Studios does.
Yes.
Because we've gone from let's say the company's going from a bubble, a very nice bubble of, well, it's not impervious to critique, right? But it has its loyal fan base that's steadily growing, grew a lot in COVID, of paying members and subscribers who then also have to buy the content outside of that. And what they get for that is probably the best multiplayer experience. I'm not saying it has the best of everything, the best handling on netcode, but in terms of hop on at any time in a really diverse mix of content, NASCAR, ovals, dirt ovals, off-road, rallycross, Formula 4 cars, Formula 1 cars, GTs, at any point of any time of day, you'll find a good ranked race with basically a full grid. So that's their big USP. And they're moving away from that. Sorry, they're keeping that. But now they've also used that money to invest that into console games. I think the World of Outlaws games were decent, but I'm not sure they sold that well. I'm just guessing that an Extra Cross came out, and I think about 4 people bought it. I'm guessing please don't get angry with me at iRacing for suggesting that. I just don't think it was a big sales success. However, it existed to provide the basis for next year's IndyCar game, to learn, to port to console, to get things done, and it will use that game engine. And we've just had NASCAR 25 release to, well, it's the best NASCAR game in 10 years, but that's sort of damning in faint praise. Yeah. It's perfectly okay. And then we have iRacing Arcade, where they have not bought the studio, but they've commissioned Original Fire Games to make a spin-off. And so that's actually the biggest and most fascinating thing in the industry for me at the minute, is how will iRacing try to reach a wider audience? Are they set up to market the console games? Are they set up to deliver something that the console player will want?
Yeah, so iRacing Arcade, I talked a bit about that last week.
I saw you went to Fan Alan.
What it was, there were several elements there that I'm seeing iRacing come to console. This is an important transition. I have a certain expectation myself of a sort of Gran Turismo level experience, something shiny, different, but with all of that. And the first thing I see is a logo which is very aimed at the sort of children's market in terms of the look. It's Circuit Superstars. I know these games very well. I see the game. I see different elements to it that don't necessarily... I'm not expecting an indie game. So how I rate games is I'll rate indie games and I'll say, this indie developer's done a magnificent job with resource. Then you become a AA and what they can achieve, and then you become AAA Gran Turismo. When I'm looking at Gran Turismo, I'm expecting everything. If I see there's curbs missing, whatever, grass doesn't look right, crowds 2D, I will point it out because I'm expecting it. They have the resource. So I think I went in expecting a AA game at least, and it's somewhere sitting there between indie and sort of low end in indie and AA. There's a lot missing there. There's a lot of things I see in terms of marketing and what it is in terms of personality and what racing is. And if you're going to produce something like that, it's part of the product. I'm not going to say there's some bits that are missing from there. And I've played it now because I said at the time, I said, I'm not reviewing it yet. I went in with an expectation. It's all right. Circuit Superstars. It's karting superstars. I enjoyed karting for what it was. My video will go up separately, but I'll explain it here anyway, because this will come up afterwards. It felt like driving a go-kart, playing the game of the GT cars. You're flat out through some corners, minor lifts in others. You're driving it just like you would a kart. And I felt it was very similar to kart handling rather than car handling. It's going to be really interesting to see how that translates to the Le Mans cars, because they're going to have even more grip. You may not even need to use the brakes, depending on how the deceleration works through the corners. So it's quite interesting. So I'm kind of like, bear in mind this week, we've got, you've got Fast and the Furious coming out. You've got Hot Wheels. You've got this iRacing Arcade. You've got the Wreck Nation?
Creation.
What's it called?
Recreation, I think.
Yeah, that one coming as well. I can't even remember. You've got all these different games coming. You've got heaps of karting games, and you had Sonic Cross Worlds or whatever recently. There's loads of these different racing games coming to market. So it's coming to market. You've got this, which is focused on real racing cars, which differentiates it from the others. Just finding the right angle in the market. And I think at the moment, I don't know, it might do really, really well. It just depends on how. We've got such a fractured market that nothing is blowing me away. There's nothing out there that I'm really seeing. I can see things are missing on this that I would have liked to have seen. And that capture what motorsport is all about. And it's more than just what we're seeing in a lot of the games these days. And they had a real opportunity to capture that, and they haven't. So we'll wait and see. I'm going to wait. I'm not reviewing the game. I might give the game a 9 out of 10 and say, buy it now when the final game. But I have played it. I enjoyed what I played, but but then I enjoyed the karting, as well. I mean, I enjoyed the karting more than I enjoyed this one because this karting handled really well as a kart.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. The demo is very small, isn't it? So it's hard
to get. Yeah.
Yeah, like the recent trailer that confirmed the release date for PC at least, because it's not coming to console till next year. Although when it does come to console, in theory, it should have split screen by that point.
Yes, that's essential for it. Yeah,
which is essential. Yeah. So I understand that decision. That makes sense to me. All on board with that. But the trailer does show more of the career mode, which I'm interested in. You have to build, like, you buy like a very small hut and you have to build it up somehow into like a monolithic team headquarters, like a Formula 1 team. So I'm interested that they're adding some sort of progression, but also in-game economy, which the previous games by Original Fire Games didn't necessarily have, or certainly not to this extent. And they're also getting licensed content in there, some fictional, some licensed, which is quite cool. But fundamentally, you made a really interesting point there, which is it indie game or is it not? Because it's portrayed as not, but I'm led to believe that it's still only there's 5 people working on it, but it has the backing of iRacing and the clout of that. So setting the expectations is key, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
they have to explain to people that this is still actually
right. In the end, you review a game on its own right.
Yeah, totally.
But I give, from a supportive angle, I appreciate when it has like a game that like 1 or 2 people make a game, and I see what it's like watching an indie film to watching a Hollywood film. You say, wow, they knocked it out of the park. And that guy's worked on this film for 5 years and generated these effects. Amazing. So it is important how whether it's just an indie game or whatever they're doing in terms of how it's marketed, how it's put across to people, how it's supported post-release. But it's an odd one. It's not one that you can package and just say, oh, this is where it fits in. The karting last year, Superkarts, loved it. I wanted more of that. I was ashamed. It was a shame that got kind of forgotten about and buried. But maybe the karts will make it back into this game.
So
I wonder if it'll be steering wheel compatible as well. I haven't had.
Yeah, this is what I've not been able to test or find out. But that has reminded me. I will ask a question afterwards.
Do we?
And see if we can get something on that. But there was the original Fire Games did issue recently, I think like last week at the time of recording, or maybe a week before, an update to the Steam page of Karting Superstars, which said, and I'm paraphrasing from memory, and it was not widely reported, and I was too busy and I didn't have time to cover it, and it was, ultimately, if you're only posting it to the Steam page of the Karting Superstars, then not many people are going to view it. That essentially the project isn't technically cancelled; it's paused, but they need to finish iRacing Arcade first. Right. So they might be able to do something afterwards, but we'll have to see.
That seems like a conflict of interest now, though. But interesting all the same. I did like Karting Superstars. So yeah. So in terms of my initial impressions, I wasn't impressed with what I first saw just out the box watching other YouTubers playing it. It wasn't what I was expecting. I think it's like saying there's a new Gran Turismo game coming out. We'll get really excited, and then it turns out to be, I don't know, some overhead 2D game or something for a mobile phone. And we're like, oh, it might be the best 2D game for a mobile phone ever made, but it wasn't what I expected or was looking forward to. That's kind of where my initial reaction came from. And I think this is important with the iRacing brand. I think iRacing is known as the sort of the most elite of elite sims to the general public. Terrifies them, even when you talk about it. There's a lot of gamers. And I think just coming from that, it's quite jarring to just go to this. If it was called iRacing Indie Label, I think we'd be talking about this completely differently and what it is as an indie label. So yeah, brand confusion, marketing confusion. And as for the game itself, what I've played is fun enough. I am interested to see how the handling evolves across the different cars. Does feel more like a kart to me right now, just driving the GT car. And also, they still need to work on the AI. If you're not in the lead, you can quickly find yourself bashed off the track every 2 seconds when you're in the middle of the pack. So there is that as well. But looking forward to that.
Agreed. There's lots of work to do. We'll see how it comes. I'm also looking forward to it. And yeah, it's a good point. Being in the industry, I'm thinking, oh yes, another Original Fire Games title. I know they'd basically run out of money. Karting Superstars was like a last chance saloon for them. And here's iRacing come along, and they've supported them, and they've given them a living and something cool. But if you don't know that, and you come looking at it from the outside, and you're expecting something from iRacing, then it isn't that.
Yeah. That's going to be a key thing. I look forward to seeing how it develops in the next few months. And then obviously reviewing it in due course. It's not been reviewed, viewers. I'm not hating. I just share my reactions honestly as what I was expecting and why, for right or for wrong. I know it has a lot of fans, as all these games do these days, but I'll review the game or give you my impressions when I play the finished game, and then myself and Tom, we can argue about it after that as well. But I think we've come to the end of this podcast. It's been a good chat today. Really appreciate you coming on here, Tom, and talking about your experience at the show with yourself and the team this week. And I look forward to seeing where all that goes and looking at your coverage as well. There are links to the Traxion coverage, which will be in the description and the first post in the comments on the YouTube channel here. Do check them out, and that'll check out all their coverage besides the various clips you've seen as we've been talking today. And that's it from me for now. I'll be covering some of these other racing games and making some videos in the coming days and weeks. Do like and subscribe. It supports what I do. And as ever, there'll be more from us very soon.